Hey, everybody. Hey, it's your old pal Tom here from the Tom Gulley Show. Let me tell you about Bonnie and Clyde. Now, in your mind, you might have Bonnie and Clyde as, just some mischievous lovers that were young people and just kind of living a free and easy lifestyle, and they were in love. They weren't just in love. They were in love. Okay, but let me just clue you in on something about Bonnie and Clyde. They were evil, hateful, murderous scum. Okay, they were awful West Dallas trash, not trash, trash. And that's something that gets glossed over all the time. Yeah, it was one of those, crime doesn't pay stories, because we all know how the story ends. And incidentally, if you've ever seen the movie about Bonnie and Clyde with Warren Beatty and Fada, don't watch that. I mean, you can watch it as a thing to watch, but it's worse than the JFK movie in terms of being accurate. It's not accurate at all. Anyway, I can't stress enough how awful and evil, and you would never want to meet them. And just because they were in love with each other doesn't mean they were nice people. And they associated with equally bad, low morals, no morals, trash, awful, scumbag, lousy, no good, crumb bum, Velveeta eating hamburger helper without the hamburger, just awful. Now, part of it's not their fault. It was the Depression. They grew up in abject poverty. Just live fast, die young didn't sound like a bad trade-off if you've been doing the things they'd been doing and being raised the way they were raised, with the prospects in front of them that they ostensibly had. But I just want you to know that Bonnie and Clyde have been romanticized for all of these years. And after this episode, after I'm done, hopefully all that'll go away. Because I am going to prove to you over and over and over again what lowlife, trash, scumbag, awful people these people were. And if they were alive today, the perfect storm of being the Depression, right at the public enemy sort of thing, sensationalized stories about these, nobody would know of them, and they just would be making tattoos somewhere on their faces with Bic pens in the prison, not outside the prison. They would never have a professional tattoo outside. That's not This is our cold open, and we do it for our audio podcast listeners. And we just want them to know there is an actual audio podcast coming down the pike, but it's also an interactive live YouTube show. So I got to play a couple songs so people have time to get a notification and file in, so that the show has a little interactive. People ask questions and say things about me that I don't appreciate, and then I yell at them and I ban them from the show, or just for 24 hours. I think I banned someone yesterday just for 24 hours for being stupid, which he was being stupid. He may indeed be stupid all the time, but anyway, if you don't want to listen to the songs, just fast forward through them. If you're watching us on YouTube on demand or listening, obviously, to an audio podcast, just go right through them. But they're real good ones. One of them I didn't realize was so popular. It was our very first song that was created by our musical director, Leon Kennedy. And then another one is just a real banger. That's all. So listen to those. Know in your heart you're a good, upstanding, law-abiding, contributing to society type of person. And when I return after these songs, let me tell you, about Bonnie and Clyde.
Talking about, we're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin, and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gulley, yes I am. So what we're talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin, and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking? Let me tell you about Bonnie and Clyde, romanticized throughout the ages. Thought of as just a couple star-crossed young lovers out trying to make a dollar here and there. They, if you saw the movie, sometimes would pick people up and take them with them as fake hostages, and then just let them. Yeah, right. Yeah, they killed a whole bunch of people, and a lot of them were law enforcement. I mean, a lot of them, and they were evil, and they were bad, and they didn't care, and they just liked to drink and fornicate and kill and shoot and rob and rinse and repeat. And I'm going to give you a story on this West Texas trash. Actually, they were from all over the place in these little towns. And a lot of the stuff happened in little towns. They weren't stupid. They were these little places, and they were from little places. A lot of places that aren't even really places. They're census-designated locations. They're little unincorporated just pimples of humanity. We'll get there. We will get there. Trust me. We'll get there. Before I forget, well, now I'll tell you that in a minute. Hey, do me a favor. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. Anything you can do to get the juju going for us here. Tell your friends you're popular, you're well-liked, you're invited at parties, you're a good person, you know people that know people, and therefore share us and say, hey, listen, give this guy a go, hep cat. And also, that helps us with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-seeing, all-conquering algorithm that we worship around here. Yeah. Plus the fact, if you're watching us live, we have super chats, we have memberships, we have gifted memberships, and that helps us out a lot. Our goal every single night is any amount of money. Also, if you go to our YouTube description, we have the PayPal, where you give the most, I get the most. We completely cut the middleman out, because what are they doing for us? Nothing. And then if you go to the TomGulleyShow.com, our merchandise store is there. You can get mugs, cups, glasses, shot glasses, drinking glasses, pint glasses, mugs, frosted mugs, 3 different sizes of coffee mug, hats, computer bags, coasters, mouse pads, playing card, shower curtain. We got it all. It's all there. And it's only marked up $2 or $3, depending on what it is. So I don't make that much, but you get something. You get something for that. And then wear it to places where there are lots of people, and use it as advertising, if you would. If you'd be so kind. Let me see something here. I gotta see if I'm allowed to. No, I'm not. Eesh. That's okay. Hey, let's go to our YouTube chat room. The chef is here. He's on the couch. The chef also has been a member of the Tom Gulley Show here on Facebook, YouTube, for 19 months. He's been a member. I think it's $2.95 a month. And he's been a member for 19 months. Also, some very generous donations, both in the chat room and certainly on PayPal. We just got a $20 donation from the chef, who works there at Geraldine's Supper Club and Lounge in beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana, just off Fountain Square, right there on English Avenue. He says he went to the grocery store today, $209 later. Man, I don't know what is happening in the world, but you can't get out of the grocery store for less than $100. If you just going in there for a couple of items, it just seems in the last 2 or 3 years, it's tripled for some reason. Because I get the same stuff all the time, a very regimented diet. I got 4 sugar-free rock stars for $5. I'm looking for a deal all the time. Sugar-free, no less. Victorian Greyjoy is here. He says, hi, Tom. Hello, Victorian Greyjoy. Nice to see you. Chef is on the couch, by the way. I assume that means he's not working tonight. All right. Let me tell you, shall I, about your Bonnie and Clyde. Your Bonnie and Clyde, okay? Let me tell you about your Bonnie and Clyde, folks. Yeah, just the picture. Sorry, audio podcast listeners. This picture here is part of the reason they're so popular, and I'm going to get to that. And it's totally an accident. But Bonnie, before I forget anything else, these people, Bonnie was born in 1910. She would be 116 years old if she was alive today. Clyde Chestnut, Bonnie Parker, by the way, Bonnie Elizabeth Parker, Clyde Chestnut, and then Champion Barrow, not much of a champion. He would be like 117 years old. Wasn't that much older. Anyway, as you know, they're American outlaws that had a gang and traveled around the central United States during the Great Depressions, did bank robberies, kidnappings, and murders in just 2 years between 1932 and 1934. They were kind of known for bank robbery and murder, but they really didn't... that wasn't kind of what they were about. They liked to rob smaller places because it was a lot easier, frankly, for them to do it. But anyway, let's one at a time. One at a time here, okay? Bonnie Elizabeth Parker, she was born in a little place called Rowena, Texas. And there she is right now. Sorry, audio podcast listeners. There she is with her cigarettes and her tight dress and her standing in front of the car. Her father was a bricklayer who died when she was 4 years old. And so her widowed mother moved the whole family back. And Rowena is out in the middle of nowhere. It's an unincorporated place. It's one of these little towns you go through that's not even really a town, okay? Her mother moved the family back to her parents' home in Cement City, which is an industrial suburb in West Dallas. That's the two things about Cement City that I'm going to tell you. Number one, I think most viewers of the show know that I was a news anchor at the biggest news station in Dallas, right? News Radio 1080 KRLD, traffic and weather together. Okay, I've never heard of Cement City, all right? Now, I've heard of West Dallas. That's an actual place, okay? The picture that I'm showing you right now, that one right there, that's West Dallas today. You see how cruddy and crappy and run down it looks today? Imagine how it was back in the time of when Bonnie Parker's mom moved a family back there, okay? And Bonnie Parker's mother, Emma is her name, she worked as a seamstress, okay? As an adult, Bonnie wrote poems. She wrote poetry. And the press got a hold of some of this poetry, and that's another thing that made her kind of famous, right? She wrote poems like The Story of Suicide Sal and The Trail's End, which is more commonly known as The Story of Bonnie and Clyde. Apparently, she was a very bright child. And she thrived on attention. Gee, the shocker there. In her second year of high school. And this is another kind of scummy backwoods, thing about Bonnie Parker. And this makes her trailer trash. And you didn't know this about this great, I'm so in love with him and everything. Hey! Roller Skater Texas Girl is here. I miss you so much. Roller Skater Texas Girl. She's Roller Skater Texas Girl. We love her around here. She says traffic and weather together on the 8s. Yes, she knows all about News Radio 1080 KRLD. I don't know if she even ever heard me on News Radio 1080 KRLD, but I was on it. for a long time, off and on, here and there. Anyway, so Bonnie was a bright kid and thrived on attention. She performed on stage. She dreamt of becoming an actress. But in her second year of high school, she did a typically trailer trash thing. Oh, yeah, very typically trailer trash thing. Would you like me to tell you about it? Okay, I'll tell you about it. She met a guy named Roy Thornton. And the two of them dropped out of school, second year of high school. So she's in 10th grade, 15 years old. And they got married on September 25th, 1926, just 6 days before her 16th birthday. Now, the marriage had a few problems, most of which stemmed from his very frequent absences and brushes with the law. And so the marriage didn't last too long. Roller Skater Texas Girls is News Radio 1080 there in Dallas is their favorite channel. Well, I'll pass that along to the team of morons that run that place. Sorry, that's terrible. I shouldn't say that. Who doesn't love Mike Rogers? If he's even still on it anymore. I don't even know if he's still on it. Anyway. So, it says here I'm getting really slow buffering and stuff. Doopa is here. And she says, hello, Tom in chat. Randy's here. Oh, the chef with a $10 thank you donation. Pork chop money, I'm suspecting. And Guido Samurai is here. Those are all great things. Why is Bonnie Parker slowing down my page so much? Anyway, there's West Dallas. Let me get West Dallas on here again and see if it speeds things up, because I don't like buffering. I don't like it when I buffer. That might make it slower. I don't know. So her and this Thornton guy, and this is really white trash stuff here, they never really divorced. Okay? They, you know how the people that do that sort of thing. I'm just going to leave this picture up and see if it does any better here. They never really divorced, and their paths never crossed again after January 1929. So she just remained married to this guy, right? And when she died, and we all know how she died, we don't have to go into that. When she died, she was still wearing the wedding ring that Thornton had given her. There you go. And he was in prison when he heard of her death, and he commented, I'm glad they jumped out like they did. It's much better than being caught. That's who she was married to. That's who she was hanging around with. This wonderful, charming young girl. He was sentenced for 5 years for robbery in 1933, and after attempting several prison breaks from other facilities, he was killed while trying to escape from Huntsville State Prison in October of 1937. That's the guy she married. That's that guy. I told you, I'm going to tell you, these people are the trash of trash. Okay? I'm not kidding. Maybe if I make these pictures smaller, it'll help me out a little. All right, so after she left Thornton, she moved back in with her mother, and she worked as a waitress there in Dallas. One of her regular customers was a postal worker named Ted Hinton. Why is that important? Here's why it's important. Good old Ted Hinton, he joined the Dallas County Sheriff's Department, and eventually, as you can see in this picture here, he's the guy on the back to the left in the back row. Sorry, audio podcast listeners. He joins the Dallas County Sheriff's Department and eventually served as a member of the posse that killed Bonnie and Clyde. So, she used to be the girl that he'd be like, hey, I need some more coffee over here. How are your eggs? That kind of thing. Then he ends up being on the posse that kills her. Bonnie, that is, briefly kept a diary in early 1929 when she was 18 years of age, and she wrote about her loneliness, her impatience with life in Dallas, and her love of photography. And apparently she also liked long walks on the beach. And am I buffering really bad right here? According to my software, I am. Part of it says I am. Part of it says I'm not. It's confusing. It's confusing. You guys tell me if you want me to just go to pictures only, and I will. Guido Samurai is on board, as is Dupa. Okay, now let's get to Clyde, shall we? He's another prize. He's another major prize, I'm telling you. Clyde Barrow. Yeah. He's another real prize here. What do we got going on? Silent film era frames you have. I don't know what that means, Guido. Thank you. I don't know what that means. And I just don't have any clue as to what that means. Which is one of my favorite things about the show are comments that just I don't know. I have a degree in film and I don't know what a silent film era frame is. Couldn't tell you. I'm asking about buffering and I don't know what you're saying at all. And so thank you. This is Clyde Chestnut Barrow. It means you are getting about 5 frames per second. Well, now there is some useful information, although I know for a fact I'm not getting 5 frames per second. I can see my frames per second. Right now they're at 29 frames per second, which is back up to the good level. The good. I don't hear a buffer. All right, forget it. I'm never asking the room anything ever again. It never turns out well. Okay, so Clyde Barrow was born in a very poor farm family in the town of Tellico, Texas, which is near Dallas. Now I've heard of Tellico. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. 5th of 7 children of Henry Basil Barrow and Cumie Talitha Walker. That means his dad didn't marry his mom. This is his brother Buck, and his wife Blanche. I've got better pictures of Blanche later, but this is the only picture I have of Buck. And for some reason, the people that hung around with Clyde Barrow, and so they only like to have their pictures taken in front of gas stations. As you can see, they have a gas station in the back. But there's Clyde Barrow. The Barrows spent part of their life settled in the urban slum of West Dallas. West Dallas was a scummy, slummy area. It really was. And so they spent their first months there living under their wagon until they got enough money to move into a house to move into a tent. I told you these people were West Dallas trash. They were trash. Rich Giraffe is laughing. It is comical to see me frustrated. I like these two. And again, these two. Who are these two? Are they Buck and Blanche? Are they Bonnie and Clyde? Are they peanut butter and jelly? It's just, I'm sorry. I grew up in an environment where people had to write precisely. Roller Skater Texas knows this because she listened to me when I was on News Radio 1080 KRLD. And I couldn't get on the air and say, some people did some stuff and it happened in a place. Good morning, 62 degrees. I'm Tom Gulley, and this is the KRLD Monday Morning News. A person in a place did a thing with some stuff that resulted in a thing that happened. I couldn't do that. Had to be very... This fella that you're looking at here, Clyde Barrow, notice I didn't just say this guy had a thing happen that was a thing. No, this person, Clyde Barrow, there he is. I provided a picture. Was first arrested in late 1926, which my grandparents would call 19 and 26. At the age of 17, after trying to evade the police when they confronted him over a rental car that he failed to return on time. By the way, is it just me, or am I the only person that is astounded that they had rental cars in 1926? That freaks me out a little bit. Dear Tom, I find Bonnie and Clyde to be rather interesting as well as good moral character. Well, now we're talking. His second arrest was with his brother Buck Barrow soon after. And this is part of that white trash thing. They were arrested for the possession, you can't make this up, of stolen turkeys. Now, he did have some legitimate jobs from 1927 through 1929, but during that time, he also cracked safes, robbed stores, and engaged in a lot of auto theft. He met 19-year-old Bonnie Parker through a mutual friend in January of 1930, right at the beginning of 1930, and they spent much of their time together during the following weeks. And I'm going to suggest to you, and I know it was the Depression, but I'm going to suggest to you, knowing that they're West Dallas trash and trash before that, they probably spent a lot of time screwing. Sorry for the foul language, but I'm just going to guess a lot of that was going on. Their romance was interrupted when Clyde was arrested and convicted of auto theft. Now, Clyde escaped from the McLennan County Jail in Waco, Texas, in March of 1930, using a gun that Bonnie had smuggled him into the jail. I want to point out right now, I don't know if you people watch the news or pay attention to the news. Now, I, of course, as a news anchor for News Radio 1080, KRLD, right there in Dallas, kind of where they're talking about. Certainly, we reached Waco. It was a 50,000-watt signal. You could hear the damn station in 37 states at night. Well, I don't know if you pay attention to the news as closely as some do. When's the last time you heard of someone escaping from a jail? I mean, it happens. It happens. As I continue this story, it's going to be nothing but people escaping or trying to escape from jail. And some of them are not successful, like Roy Thornton, the former husband of Bonnie Parker. He tried to escape, and they used to shoot you for that, you know? Anyway, so Clyde escapes, but then he's recaptured. By the way, he only escaped for a week, and he is sent to the Huntsville State Prison in April of 1930. And in September, he was assigned to a very important place in this story, the Eastham Prison Farm. And he's only 21 years old, okay? Now, I couldn't even find a picture of the Easton Prison Farm. They used to have prison farms where guys would go out and they'd do farm stuff, and they'd bale hay, and they'd do, well, while Clyde is in the Easton Prison Farm, and this is super, super important to this story. All right. While he's in the Easton prison farm, age 21, you know how when people get sent to prison, there's always that joke that something's going to happen to them while they're in there. They're going to get assigned to a cell, and a big guy named Clyde that's 6'8" is going to do a thing to them, probably from behind, that they won't like, of a physical/sexual nature. Yeah, that actually happened to Clyde Barrow when he was assigned to the Easton prison farm at the age of 21. He was SA'd while in prison. But Clyde, remember, is West Dallas trash, okay? So he's not just going to sit still for that. No, 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 no. He retaliated by attacking and killing his tormentor with a pipe, crushing his skull. This was his first ever killing, but luckily for him, another inmate who was already serving a life sentence said, no, that was me. That was me. So he had a buddy in there that did him a solid, right? Did him a solid. Now, also, this gets even sincerely Guido. Thank you, Guido. Rich Giraffe says, I'm a little surprised. The infrastructure looks post-apocalyptic. I don't know what infrastructure you're talking about. It's just another... Chef says, I'm a news junkie. Well, then you'll enjoy this, because this story gets... By the way, this story is not going to stop being bizarre at this point. Bonnie and Clyde, everybody thinks, oh, they just ran around shooting the town up and got money from banks and did it. No, it's very weird. And it will continue to be weird about the rental. The rental. Are you talking about the car rental? To avoid... Hold on. Rental cars. There we go. Finally. The Great Depression was post-apocalyptic. Yeah, it was the 1930s. It's pre-apocalyptic. Jesus, what? Do you guys... You know about history, right? I mean, anyway. So the story continues to be bizarre and weird. To avoid hard labor in the fields, because the one thing you didn't want to do if you were in prison was hard labor. They would sometimes sentence you to 7 years of hard labor. I mean, you didn't want the hard labor. Clyde Barrow, our good buddy Clyde, purposely, intentionally, he meant to do it, had 2 of his toes amputated in late January 1932, either by another inmate or he did it himself. And because of this, he walked with a limp for the rest of his life. This amputation slowed him down physically, as you might imagine, making it harder to outrun law enforcement and limiting his mobility during many of his many robberies. However, and this happened without his knowledge, his mother had successfully petitioned for his release, because you could do that back then. The mother was, I need him to help with the farm, and they might release you. He was set free just 6 days after his intentional injury, meaning he might not have had to do that to get out of prison. But anyway, he was paroled from Easton in February, Groundhog's Day, actually, of 1932. And as opposed to when he had gone in, he was now a hardened and bitter criminal. He was a bad, not fun guy. His sister Marie said, something awful sure must have happened to him in prison because he wasn't the same person when he got out. Hey, Marie, did you find out that there was a guy there that assaulted him in the way that men don't like, that forbidden hello, that yipes from behind kind of, he's not really checking for, no. Rectal polyps. Fellow inmate Ralph Foltz said he had watched Clyde change from a schoolboy to a rattlesnake. Okay? Now, hey, do me a favor. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. All the free things that you can do to help the show out. Guido Samurai says, the Great Depression looked pretty apocalyptic to me, except for shoe fly pie. That stuff is good. That they would set on a windowsill, apparently. They're cool. People would come and steal it if the cartoons are correct. So after he gets out of the Easton prison farm, Clyde Barrow robbed grocery stores and gas stations at a rate far outpacing the 10 or so bank robberies that were attributed to him and what was called the Barrow Gang. His favorite weapon was a 1918 Browning automatic rifle. According to John Neal Phillips, Barrow's goal in life, and this is important, was not to gain fame or fortune from robbing banks, but to seek revenge against the Texas prison system for the abuses that he had sustained while serving time. So yes, Sister Marie, some really bad stuff happened to him in the prison. Some bad butt stuff and other stuff happened to him while he was in the prison. So all this stuff, all this bank robbing and store robbing and anything they could find robbing and kidnapping and murdering, and that wasn't for the money and it wasn't to become famous. He was taking his revenge out on the Texas prison system. Now there's several different accounts of how Bonnie and Clyde first met. One of the most credible versions is they met at the home of one of Clyde's friends. Barrow was 20, she was 19. She was out of work and staying with a female friend while her friend had a broken arm and was recovering from the broken arm. Barrow dropped by the girl's house while Parker was in the kitchen making hot chocolate, and then things got even hotter. So after Clyde gets released in February of 1932, he and this Ralph Foltz guy, schoolboy to a rattlesnake guy, began a series of robberies, primarily stores and gas stations. And their goal was to collect enough money and firepower to launch a raid against the Easton prison farm. He's still mad at this farm. On April 19th, Parker and Foltz were captured in a failed hardware store burglary in Kaufman, Texas, in which they had intended to steal firearms. Parker was released from jail after a few months when the grand jury failed to indict her. Foltz was tried, convicted, and served time. He never rejoined the gang. Parker wrote poetry to pass the time in the Kaufman County Jail and reunited with Barrow just a few weeks past her release. Now, the Barrow gang, there's Bonnie there with her cigar and her gun. And these pictures that you see that were taken, looks like on a country road with this same couple of cars and all these guns and stuff. That'll play a part later. Remember that later, because that's part of their story. She was portrayed in the press as a cigar-smoking gun moll after this actually undeveloped roll of film was discovered later on. This is Blanche Barrow. This is Clyde's brother's wife. And look, I'm not saying I'm in favor of prisoners, but do you notice how they just kind of tacked up that number on the side of her hairdo in that one picture. That's a little dehumanizing. This is another member of the gang, the Barrow gang. This is yet another member of the Barrow gang. We'll get to all these people later. This is the oldest surviving member of the Barrow gang that was arrested in 1973. He was still doing stuff. And this is a guy named Henry Methvin, who actually kind of turned stoolie on the gang. But anyway, Barrow was the getaway driver in a robbery in Hillsborough, Texas. And there's Bonnie and Clyde again. And there she is, pointing a gun at him like, oh, we're just kooky kids. I'll tell you, they're kooky kids. There's Clyde. Well, no, that's not. I don't know if that is Clyde. That's all their guns. See how they even have guns on the grill of the car and on the hood ornament and everywhere. They got a lot of guns, those guys. And this is after the gang was captured. This is all the guns that they found with them and ammunition. And it was a lot. I believe this is Hillsborough, Texas. Barrow was the getaway driver in a robbery in Hillsborough when a store owner, J.N. Butcher, was shot and killed. Butcher's wife identified Barrow from police photographs as one of the shooters, although he had stayed in the car. On August 5th, Raymond Hamilton and Ross Dyer were drinking moonshine at a country dance in Stringtown, Oklahoma. This is Hillsborough, Texas, right here. About the time that it was robbed by those guys. These two guys were drinking moonshine. They was drinking shine at a country dance in Stringtown, Oklahoma, when Sheriff C.G. Maxwell and Deputy Eugene C. Moore approached them in the parking lot. Barrow and Hamilton opened fire, killing Moore and gravely wounding Maxwell. Moore was the first law enforcement officer whom Barrow and his gang killed. They eventually murdered 9 law officers. Now, can I point something out? Sorry, audio podcast listeners. This is the actual place in Stringtown, Oklahoma, that the country dance was occurring. I'm sorry, but that couldn't have been much of a dance. Maybe it's because they had moonshine, and I know it's dilapidated. Sorry, audio podcast listeners, no, but that looks like it holds 10 people, and it's, Anyway, on October 11th, just a month or two later, they allegedly killed Howard Hall at his store during a robbery in Sherman, Texas, though some historians consider this unlikely. W.D. Jones had been a friend of Barrow's since childhood. He joined Parker and Barrow on Christmas Eve of 1932 at the age of 16, and the three left Dallas that night. The next day, Christmas Day, Jones and Barrow murdered Doyle Johnson, a young family man, while stealing his car in Temple, Texas. Barrow killed Tarrant County Deputy Malcolm Davis on January 6th when he and Parker and Jones wandered into a police trap set for another criminal. They dispatched with 5 people since April. Now, March 22nd, 1933, Clyde's brother Buck was granted a full pardon and released from prison. And he and his wife Blanche, this is that W.D. Jones guy. So there's Buck. He gets granted a full pardon, released from prison. There's his wife Blanche. And they set up housekeeping with Bonnie and Clyde and W.D. Jones in this temporary hideout. And this is the hideout at 3347 and a half Oak Ridge Drive in Joplin, Missouri. And this is an important place because, according to family sources, Buck and Blanche were there to visit. And they attempted Clyde to surrender to law enforcement. They said, look, you guys have killed a lot of people. You better surrender. They're going to kill you. And the group, and this got him in trouble in more than one situation. Okay. Guido, it's Clyde. Between Dallas and Waco. Rich Draft says, I live not far from all this. Roller Skater text goes, oh, wow, it's still there. So cool. Guido says, the proper terminology is they were up 5 hats. If you say so, man. If you say so. So Buck and Blanche are there to say, hey, come on, you need to chill out a little bit because these guys are going to kill you. But these guys, the Buck and Blanche and Bonnie and Clyde and the other guy, they ran loud, alcohol-fueled card games late into the night in this very quiet neighborhood. And Blanche recalled that they bought a case of beer a day, which, I'm sorry, isn't that much beer for 5 people. But, I mean, I went to college. I know how much a case of beer is. The men came and went very noisily at all hours. And Clyde, being the super genius that he was, accidentally fired a Browning automatic rifle in the apartment while cleaning it. No neighbors went to the house, but one of the neighbors reported their suspicions to the Joplin Police Department. Well, the Joplin police assembled a 5-man force in 2 cars on April 13th to confront what they assumed were bootleggers living at that address. The Barrow brothers and Jones opened fire, killing Detective Harry McGinnis outright, fatally wounding Constable J.W. Harriman. Bonnie Parker opened fire with a Browning automatic rifle. I don't know if you guys know what a BAR is, but they used them in World War II. And they have 30 caliber bullets, and they spit out a lot of them. And if you've got somebody with a BAR, it's look out. It's devastating. So when Bonnie opens fire with this Browning automatic rifle and the others start to flee, Missouri Highway Patrol Sergeant G.B. Kaler ducks behind a large oak tree. The 30 caliber bullets from the BAR struck the tree and blasted wood splinters into his face. Parker gets in the car with the others. They pulled in Blanche from the street where she was chasing her dog named Snowball. The surviving officers later testified that they had fired only 14 rounds. That's how much lead was coming from the Barrow gang. One hit Jones on the side, one struck Clyde but was deflected by his suit coat button, and one grazed Buck after ricocheting off a wall. The group escaped Joplin police, but they left behind most of their possessions at the apartment, including Buck's parole papers that were only 3 weeks old, a large arsenal of weapons, handwritten poem by Bonnie, and a camera with several rolls of undeveloped film. Police developed the film at the Joplin Globe and found many photos of Barrow, Parker, and Jones posing and pointing weapons at one another. Those are the photos, sorry, audio podcast listeners, that I showed you earlier. The Globe sent the poem and the photos over the newswire, including a photo of Parker clenching a cigar in her teeth, the pistol in her hand. And that is how this white trash killer, murder, drinking, screwing, fornicating, murdering, kidnapping, murdering Barrow gang became front page news across the United States, completely by accident. The photo of Bonnie Parker posing with the cigar and the gun became popular. John Dillinger had matinee idol good looks, and Pretty Boy Floyd had the best possible nickname. But The Joplin photos introduced new criminal superstars with the most titillating trademark of all: illicit sex. Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker were wild and young and undoubtedly slept together. Hoeing it up. West Dallas trash. They was. Why am I back to these pictures? I have a million more pictures. Why are they not showing my million more pictures? That's a good-sized machine gun. They were BSC. I don't know what BSC stands for. Let me see here. I might have to do something crazy right in the middle of the show. You know what? I might just go ahead and do something crazy right in the middle of the show. Why is this not? Well, these are all in here. I ain't understanding this at all. These should all be in here. I'm going to buffer for a second probably here. This is chapping me pretty bad, though. Yeah, I'm not messing with that. Well, daggone it. I have a million more pictures in here than this is allowing me to show. So what I could do is this and that, and then I'll get this and I'll add some files. Sorry, folks, but that I'm not very pleased about that. All right, where was I at? Date added. All right. Henry Medford, Loveside, Restored Theater, Wellington, Fort Smith, Grapevine, okay, Buckham Ranch, garage apartment. Well, I'll just do it like this. I don't care. I don't even care. I'll just do it like that. Slide. There we go. Now we're talking. Okay. Yeah, you want to play that way with old Tom Gulley? I'll play. I don't know why in the heck it did that to me, but what do I care? Missouri State Patrol. Okay. Something happened with the Missouri State Patrol. The group ranged from Texas as far north as Minnesota for the next 3 months. In May, they tried to rob the bank in Lucerne, Indiana, and robbed the bank in Okabena, Minnesota. They kidnapped Dillard Darby and Sophia Stone at Ruston, Louisiana, in the course of stealing Darby's car. They kidnapped him. They were trying to steal her car, so they kidnapped him. This is one of several events between 1932 and 1934 in which they kidnapped police officers or robbery victims. Now, they usually released their hostages far from home, sometimes with money to help them return. Okay? And the stories of these encounters made headlines, as did their more violent stuff they did. The Barrow Gang did not hesitate to shoot anyone who got in their way, whether it was police or civilians. Other gang members who committed murder included Hamilton, Jones, Buck Barrow, and Henry Methvin. Eventually, the cold-bloodedness of their murders opened the public's eyes to the reality of, hey, these aren't just a couple of kids out having fun, and such. These are bad people. They are really bad people. So, I'm trying to see here if I can. That's only my second picture. I wish to hell this thing would let me look at these pictures. Coffee and bags. Okay, so this is in Joplin, Missouri here. This is from that other firefight. Joplin, Missouri. All right, so stop it with your stuff. Joplin, Missouri. I think that's Ruston, Louisiana. That's Henry Mifflin, one of the guys that was killing people. That's another small town in Texas. That's the Okabena, I think, or whatever. This actually says what it is on the front of it. I can't remember, but it's the Cavort there. This is Enid, Oklahoma, a really small town they were in. The photos entertained the public for a time, but the gang was desperate and discontented, as described by Blanche in her account while she was imprisoned in the late 1930s. With their new notoriety, their daily lives became more difficult as they tried to evade discovery, but now everybody knew who they were. Restaurants and motels became less secure. The gang resorted to campfire cooking and bathing in cold streams. The round-the-clock proximity of 5 people in one car gave rise to vicious bickering. Jones was the driver when he and Barrow stole that car belonging to those 2 people, and he used that car to leave the others, and he stayed away till June 8th. Barrow failed to see the warning signs at a bridge under construction on June 10th while driving near Wellington, Texas, and his car flipped into a ravine. Sources disagree on whether there was a gasoline fire or if Parker was doused with acid from the car's battery under the floorboards, but Bonnie Parker sustained third-degree burns up to her right leg, so severe, and that's why she's wearing the long dress. Okay, that's why she's wearing a really long dress. The muscles contracted and caused the leg to draw up. Jones, who was in the car with them, said she'd been burned so bad none of us thought she was going to live. The hide on her right leg was gone from her hip to her ankle. I could see the bone in places. By the way, when one of your good friends refers to your skin as the hide, you're with the wrong people. Nice podcast, Stupid Live says, nice dye job, Tom. Can I say something about, I think isn't it Dan from Nice Podcast, Stupid? First of all, you're nothing but a little pearl-clutching twit. You wouldn't know a fact if one bit you in the ass. You're a midget. You are a laughable individual. This is not a dye job. I just got out of the frickin' shower, dummy, because some of us played Division I sports when they were very young and still go out and run and hike and do all sorts of other things. Why don't you take your sorry, inconsequential, John Melendez ball-licking ass somewhere else on the internet? Why don't you do that, Cupcake, okay? Strawberry? You're not wanted here. Your silly, make stuff up, treat it as fact crap won't work here. Your silly, oh, I heard something, so I'm going to now believe it to be true. Why don't you build a time machine, since you're never going to be able to build an unshrinking machine? Go back to the Opie and Anthony days where you could be a pest and do silly things to people and high-five yourself like you just TP'd somebody's tree, something that constructive. Okay, I don't know if you have kids. I don't know how old you are, but when you're 40 or 50, turn to someone in your life that you respect or work for and say, hey, you know how I spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of my free personal time basically being a painful rectal itch of a human being to someone else, like I was in 6th grade, which is the last time my body grew. Why don't you go do that, Dan? Just a joke. Nice job. Do you see me? Do you see the gray on the sides? Dye job. Some days I come straight out of the shower into this show. This is one of those days. Would you like me to not do that tomorrow? Would you like to just go back a day or two and see all the gray that's in my hair? There's not that much for my age, actually. Now there's some right there. You can see a little. See it? See that? Just a turd of a human. And by the way, don't ever make the mistake of getting on a show that I'm on. I will lay waste to your miserable, stuttering rear end. I loved the show I saw, and I haven't seen many with you on it, but you're a wonder. You've got all these standards for people that are way up here, but you have standards that are way down here for yourself, especially about factual accuracy. But I loved it. Someone asked you what your greatest achievement was in terms of broadcasting. Didn't have an answer. And by the way, didn't you go by Chad Zumach's house while you were on vacation with your wife? You were on vacation in Florida, and you thought, hey, I know a good use of my time. I'll go by Chad Zumach's house. Buckaroo, don't ever come by my house. You'll be having problems you can't deal with if you come by my house. That I guarantee you. All right, let me see here. And so much like if you have a person like Dan from No Nice Podcast Stupid in your life, if you have a person in your life that says the hide on her right leg was gone down from hip to ankle, you don't want people talking about, hide isn't, it's not good. Let me get back to this shot of Eric, Oklahoma. This is Eric, Oklahoma, and this is like, and I'm not kidding you, this is an old building that would have been around during what I'm about to tell you, okay? Eric, Oklahoma, this cross-section of streets, I believe, is Roger Miller Avenue and Sheb Woolley Street or something. I think those two famous people, Roger Miller, you know Roger Miller, right? Trailers for sale or rent, rooms to rent for 50 cents. I'm a man of my means, by no means king of the road. That guy, Roger Miller. My do-wackadoo just don't do me no good. That guy. And then Sheb Woolley, who's the the principal in Hoosiers, and in a million, he was on Rawhide. He was on Rawhide and a million Westerns. And he also had a huge hit with, it was a one-eyed, one-horn, flying purple people leader. One-eyed, one. That was Sheb Woolley. Those two famous people were in Eric, Oklahoma. So, good night, Gracie. Good night, Gracie. Anyway, so Bonnie Parker, at this point, could hardly walk. She either hopped on her good leg or was carried by Clyde. They got help from a nearby farm family, and then, just 'cause, they kidnapped Collinsworth County Sheriff George Corey and City Marshal Paul Hardy. Why they had to kidnap law enforcement, I don't know, but they did. And they left two of them handcuffed to a tree outside Eric, Oklahoma. The three rendezvoused with Buck and Blanche and hid in a tourist center near Fort Smith, Arkansas, and treated Bonnie's burns. Buck, Barrow, and Jones bungled a robbery, and in doing so murdered Town Marshal Henry D. Humphrey in Alma, Arkansas. So they were forced to flee even despite Parker's very grave burned leg condition. And then they do more stupid stuff. Here's Let's see. Rich Giraffe says they kidnapped Gene Wilder, which caused him to have a meltdown and open a chocolate factory. Roller skater Texas girl said she lied. She's just plain hideous, trying to fake an injury. Could be roller skater Texas girl, but she did wear those long skirts and stuff. But then I guess she had the skirts before the burn because she was modest girl, after all. Roller skater. I'm just jiving, by the way. I know, roller skater. You can do no wrong here. Rich Giraffe with the muscle, strawberry, yowza. Roller skater text goes, oh my. Rich Giraffe says Chad picked the wrong day. That's terrifying. Or Dan. Yeah, went by the guy's house. That's who he is. That's who that little scumbag is. That's exactly who that little teeny tiny man is. And then he runs over to John Melendez's page, and anything you say, John, oh, yep. Like, that's a smart move. Whether he's trolling him or not, that guy is a waste of skin and a waste of time and just a great advertisement for the Dabbleverse. We won't get into his mail order bride or whatever. There's some stuff about his wife. I don't have enough facts to know it to be true, so I'll leave it off the table right now. But I do know he was with his wife on vacation, and I think I'll go by Chad's apartment or whatever. I could be on vacation immediately next to his house. I wouldn't go by it. I wouldn't care. That's what kind of life that guy has. That's who you're dealing with there. All right. It is terrifying. Roller skater text girl. Rich Giraffe says, or Dan. Everyone say goodnight, Gracie. Goodnight, Gracie, to the chef. Rich Giraffe says the Gene Wilder bit was a reference to the movie, by the way. I got you. Willy Wonka, Chocolate Factory. Come with me, you will see a world of pure imagination. Tim Jenkinson says, one game away from winning the league now. I was where the Arsenal Stadium is yesterday. Went to a restaurant there. You mean the old Highbury Stadium? Where they now, I think it's condos or apartments or something. God, I'd love to live there. Yes, we're one, but don't think for a second that we won't bottle it. Don't for a second. Let's knock that thing down. Nice die job. It's drying. There's gray in the front. There's gray on the side. It's everywhere. Good God. Do a sit-up. Anyway, hey, by the way, jealous because some of us have hair? All right. In 1930, the new stadium, it's massive. Oh, Emirates Stadium, yes. In 1933, the gang checked into the Red Crown Tourist Court, south of Platte City, Missouri. Gang, can I just tell you, this was a bad move, and we're going to see some telltale things about Bonnie and Clyde in this move. We really are. Some signature moves. So they go to the Red Crown Tourist Court, south of Platte City, Missouri. It consisted of 2 brick cabins joined by garages, and the gang rented them both. Okay, so you're seeing 2/3 of the place right there. You're seeing one of the cabins, and you're seeing both of the garages. To the south of the Red Crown Tourist Court stood the Red Crown Tavern, a popular restaurant among Missouri highway patrolmen. All right. And the gang seemed to go out of their way to draw the attention of the Missouri highway patrol. Blanche registered the party as 3 guests, but the owner could see 5 people getting out of the car, and he noted that the driver backed into the garage, gangster style, for a quick getaway. All right. Blanche paid for their cabins with coins rather than bills, and did the same later when buying 5 dinners and 5 beers. She's paying for stuff with coins, which if you're robbing stores and gas stations and even banks, at some point you got to get rid of the coins. People just back then didn't have $100 in coins on them, just like today. The next day, the owner of the Red Crown, whatever, noticed that his guest had taped newspapers over the windows of their cabin. And Blanche again paid for 5 of the meals with coins. Her outfit, which I'm going to show you in a minute, of Jodhpur riding breeches, also attracted attention. They were not typical attire for women in the area or anywhere else outside of a riding stable, and eyewitnesses still remembered them 40 years later, into the 70s. You've seen these pants in a movie where somebody is riding in a competition or something. They're those pants. The owner of the place told Captain William Baxter of the Highway Patrol, a patron of his restaurant. Remember, the Missouri Highway Patrol loves this restaurant, so he told him about the group. Clyde Barrow and W.D. Jones go into town to purchase bandages, crackers, cheese, and atropine sulfate to treat Bonnie's leg. The druggist contacts this sheriff named Holt Coffey. Okay, there's Holt Coffey. Holt Coffey, by the way, is the guy on the left, strangely enough, that looks like he's the druggist, but that's the sheriff. And he puts the cabins under surveillance. Now, Coffey had been alerted by Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas law enforcement to watch for strangers who might be buying bandages, crackers, cheese, and atropine sulfate. The sheriff contacted Captain Baxter, who called for reinforcements from Kansas City, including an armored car. Yes. Sheriff Holt Coffey led a group of officers toward the cabins at 11 p.m. on July 20th, 1933, armed with Thompson submachine guns. And just so I can show you, there's Blanche being arrested with her fancy riding pants and boots on for reasons nobody knows to this day. But there she is being arrested. This is not the arrest from this Joplin, Missouri gig going on here. So anyway, in the gunfight that ensued, the officers' 45 caliber Thompson machine guns proved no match for Clyde Barrow's 30 caliber Browning automatic rifle, which he had stolen from the National Guard Armory in Eden, Oklahoma. The gang escaped when a bullet short-circuited the horn on an armored car, and police took this horn, which had short-circuited and was blaring one constant blast, as a ceasefire signal, so they did not even pursue the Barrow gang. They just let them go. So they'd escaped law enforcement once again, but Clyde's brother Buck had been wounded by a bullet that blasted a large hole in the bone of his forehead and exposed his injured brain. Blanche also was nearly blinded by grass fragments. And later on, remember W.D. Jones here? Yeah. Later on, he would confess to a lot of this stuff, and that would make murder charges ensue against the group. They camped at Dexfield Park, an abandoned amusement park near Dexter, Iowa. And Buck was sometimes conscious. He even talked and ate, but his massive head wound and his loss of blood were so severe that Clyde Barrow and W.D. Jones here dug a grave for him. Residents noticed their bloody bandages, and local police determined the campers were the Barrow gang. Police and approximately 100 spectators surrounded the group, and the Barrows soon came under fire. Barrow, Parker, and Jones escaped on foot. Buck was shot in the back, and he and Blanche were captured by police. Buck died of his head wound and pneumonia after surgery 5 days later in Perry, Iowa. This is actually, right here, is Bonnie being captured in Dexfield, Iowa, that amusement park. That's actually what that picture is from. And as you can see, she's wearing sunglasses because she was almost blinded by the glass from that previous place. For the next 6 weeks, they went a bunch of places they never usually went. West to Colorado, north to Minnesota, southeast to Mississippi, but they continued armed robberies. They restocked their arsenal when Barrow and Jones robbed an armory in Platteville, Illinois, gathering up 3 BARs. They loved those Browning automatic rifles, and handguns and a large quantity of ammunition. In early September, the gang risked a run to Dallas to see their families for the first time in 4 months. Jones parted company and went to Houston, where his mother had moved. He was arrested there without incident and returned to Dallas, and that's where he started confessing and got the murder warrants against Bonnie and Clyde. Through the autumn, Clyde committed several robberies with small-time local accomplices while his family and Parker's attended to her medical needs. On November 22nd, Bonnie and Clyde narrowly evaded arrest while trying to meet with family members near Sowers, Texas. That's on screen right now. Dallas Sheriff Schmoot Schmidt, that's his name, Schmoot Schmidt, Deputy Bob Alcorn, and Deputy Ted Hinton being the guy that Bonnie used to serve when she was a waitress, they lay in wait nearby. As Clyde drove up, he sensed a trap and drove by his family's car, at which point Schmidt and his deputies stood up and opened fire with machine guns and a BAR. The family members in the crossfire were not hit, but a BAR bullet passed through the car, striking the legs of both Bonnie and Clyde, but they escaped. On November 28th, the Dallas grand jury delivered a murder indictment against Parker and Barrow for the killing of Tarrant County Deputy Malcolm Davis, and it was Parker's first warrant, Bonnie's first warrant for murder. But things were getting grim for Bonnie and Clyde. They were coming to the end of the line. On January 16th, 1934, Clyde orchestrated the escape of Hamilton, Methvin, and several others in the Eastham breakout, that prison work farm he'd been not happy with. He broke a bunch of people out of it. The brazen raid generated negative publicity for Texas, and Barrow seemed to have achieved what historians say was his big goal: revenge on the Texas Department of Corrections. Barrow gang member Joe Palmer shot Major Joe Crowson during his escape. Crowson died a few days later in the hospital. This attack attracted the full power of the Texas and federal government to the manhunt for Bonnie and Clyde. As Crowson was struggling for life, prison chief Lee Simmons reportedly promised him that all persons involved in the breakout would be hunted down and killed. All of them eventually were, except for Methvin, who preserved his life by turning on the gang and setting up the ambush of Bonnie and Clyde. Texas Department of Corrections contacted former Texas Ranger Captain Frank Hamer and persuaded him to hunt down the Barrow gang. Now, Frank Hamer was retired, but his commission hadn't expired. He accepted the assignment as a Texas Highway Patrol officer and was given the specific task of taking down the Barrow gang. Now, this guy was tall and burly and no fun at all. Taciturn, stern, unimpressed by authority, and driven by an inflexible adherence to right or what he thinks is right. For 20 years, he had been feared and admired throughout Texas as the walking embodiment of the one riot, one ranger ethos. And that basically just means, hey, one ranger can take down a whole riot. He had acquired a formidable reputation as the result of several spectacular captures and the shooting of a number of Texas criminals. He was officially credited with 53 kills and suffered 17 wounds. 3 of Hamer's 4 brothers were also Texas Rangers. His brother Harrison was the best shot of the 4, but Frank was considered the most tenacious. Prison boss Simmons always said publicly that Hamer had been his first choice, although there was evidence he first approached 2 other Rangers, both of whom declined because they were reluctant to shoot a woman. Frank Hamer was not reluctant to shoot a woman. He became the constant shadow of Bonnie and Clyde, living out of his car just a town or 2 behind them. On Easter Sunday, 1934, April 1st, April Fool's Day, at the intersection of Route 114 and Dove Road near Grapevine, Texas, now South Lake. There's a part of Grapevine back then that is now South Lake. Hoity-toity. Roller skater Texas girl will tell you South Lake is hoity-toity. Grapevine's just nice. I almost moved to Grapevine instead of moving where I'm living now. Anyway, at the intersection of 114 and Dove Road, which you can still go to, Texas Highway Patrolman H.D. Murphy and Edward Bryant Wheeler stopped their motorcycles, thinking a motorist needed assistance. Barrow and either Methvin or Parker opened fire with a shotgun and a handgun, killing both officers. An eyewitness account said that Parker had fired the fatal shots, and this story received widespread coverage. Methvin later claimed that he fired the first shot after mistakenly assuming Barrow wanted the officers killed. Barrow joined in. During the spring season, the Grapevine killings were recounted in exaggerated detail. They blew it way out of proportion, affecting public perception. All 4 Dallas papers seized on the story told by the eyewitness, a farmer who claimed to have seen Parker laugh at the way Murphy's head bounced like a rubber ball on the ground as she shot him. The stories claim that police found a cigar butt with tiny teeth marks, supposedly those of Bonnie Parker. Several days later, Murphy's fiancée wore her intended wedding dress to his funeral, attracting photos and news coverage. So they were supposed to get married. They made a big deal out of it. The eyewitness's ever-changing story was soon discredited, but the massive negative publicity increased the public clamor over wanting the Barrow gang exterminated. The outcry galvanized authorities into action, and Texas Highway Patrol boss L.G. Fares offered a reward of $1,000, which would be $18,000 today, for the dead bodies of the Grapevine slayers. This is a political cartoon that was published at one point. Clyde and Bonnie, it's the electric chair, and it says reserved. Yeah. Texas Governor Ma Ferguson. Yes, back in the 30s, Texas had a governor that was a female named Ma Ferguson. She added another reward of $500 for each of the 2 killers, which meant that for the first time there was a specific price on Bonnie's head, since she was so widely believed to have shot H.D. Murphy. Public hostility increased 5 days later when Barrow and Methvin murdered 60-year-old Constable William Cal Campbell, a widow and father, near Commerce, Oklahoma. And I'm showing you these small towns. A lot of them are pictures from today because they haven't been updated. These are tiny towns, and they always were. They kidnapped Commerce Police Chief Percy Boyd, crossed the state line into Kansas, then let him go, giving him a clean shirt and a few dollars. and a request from Parker to tell the world that she did not smoke cigars. Boyd identified both Barrow and Parker to authorities, but never learned Methvin's name. In May of 1934, Barrow had 16 warrants outstanding against him for multiple counts of robbery, auto theft, escape, theft, assault, and murder in 4 states. Hamer, who had begun tracking the gang on February 12th, led a posse comprised of 6 men. And now we're back to the beginning again, and I don't understand why it's not showing all my pictures. Supposed to be showing all my pictures. I'll just do what I did last time. That's chapping my wagon. That's what that's doing. It's chapping my wagon pretty hard. Sorry, folks. Are you enjoying the exciting tale of what losers Bonnie and Clyde really are? Is that making your day? McLennan. Okay, so we started. Oh, here we go. That's downtown commerce. I'll just do from here until here, and we'll see if that makes bacon. Dan. Yeah, they did. Well, what do you know about that? What do you know about that? Sorry. All right, 6 men. They were in the front. There's Alcorn, and then there's Henderson Jordan in the middle in the front. And on the right, that's Frank Hamer himself. And then in the back, in the left, there's Ted Hinton. That's the guy that Bonnie used to serve coffee to. In the middle is Prentice Morrill Oakley. And on the right is B.M. Maney Galt. I guess he went by Maney, must be his second name of the B.M., because going by the name B.M., probably not great. Hamer had studied the gang's movements and found that they swung in a circle so they could skirt the edges of 5 Midwestern states, exploiting the state line rule that prevented officers from pursuing a fugitive into another jurisdiction. So they were consistent in their movements. So Hamer charted the path and predicted where he would go. They'd be just on the edge of Texas and they'd go into Oklahoma. And they'd be just on the edge of Oklahoma and then they'd go to, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Unbeknownst to Hamer, Barrow had designated Methvin's parents' residence as a rendezvous in case they were separated, and Methvin had been separated from the rest of the gang in Shreveport. On May 24th, the 4 posse members from Texas were in Shreveport when they learned that Barrow and Parker, Bonnie and Clyde, were planning to visit Methvin's father, whose name was Ivy, that was a guy's name back then, that evening. The full posse set upon an ambush along Louisiana State Highway 154. Hinton recalled that the lawmen were in place by 9 p.m. and they waited through the whole of the very next day with no sign of the perpetrators. Other accounts said the officers set up on the evening of May the 22nd. It doesn't really matter. They were there and waited and waited and waited. And at approximately 9:15 in the morning on May 23rd, the posse members were still concealed in the bushes and almost ready to give up when they heard a vehicle approaching at high speed. In their official report, they stated they had persuaded Methvin to position his truck on the shoulder of the road that morning. They hoped that Clyde Barrow would stop to speak with him, putting his vehicle close to the posse's position in the bushes. The vehicle proved to be the Ford V8 with Barrow at the wheel, and he slowed down as they hoped he would. The 6 lawmen opened fire while the vehicle was still moving. Oakley fired first, probably before any order to do so. Barrow Clyde was shot in the head, dying instantly from Oakley's first bullet, while Hinton reported hearing Bonnie screaming. The officers fired about 130 rounds overall, emptying their guns. Any number of wounds Barrow and Parker suffered would have been fatal. The gunfire was allegedly so loud that the posse were temporarily deaf all afternoon. According to statements made by Hinton and Alcorn, each of us 6 officers had a shotgun and an automatic rifle and pistols. We opened fire with the automatic rifles. They were empty before the car even got with us. Then we used shotguns. There was smoke coming from the car, and it looked like it was on fire. After shooting the shotguns, we emptied the pistols at the car, which had passed us and ran into a ditch about 50 yards on down the road. It almost turned over. We kept shooting at the car even after it stopped. We weren't taking any chances. Film footage taken by one of the deputies immediately after the ambush shows 112 bullet holes in the vehicle, of which around 30 struck the couple. The official report by Parish Coroner J.L. Wade listed 17 entrance wounds on Barrow's body and 26 on Bonnie's, including several headshots to each and one that had severed Clyde's spinal column. C.F. Boots Bailey. Why do all these people have 2 letters for the beginning? Anyway, the local undertaker had difficulty embalming the bodies because of all the bullet holes. Police inspected the vehicle and discovered an arsenal of stolen automatic rifles, sawed-off semi-automatic shotguns, assorted handguns, and several thousand rounds of ammunition, along with 15 sets of license plates from various states. Hamer stated, "I hate to bust a cap on a woman, especially when she was sitting down. However, if it wouldn't have been her, it would have been us." Word of the deaths quickly spread when Hamer, Hilton, Jordan, and Oakley drove into town to call their bosses. Alcorn and Galt were left to guard the bodies, but soon lost control of the curious crowd that had gathered. One woman cut off bloody locks of Parker's hair and had pieces from her dress, which were subsequently sold as souvenirs, while Hinton later returned and was sickened to find a man trying to cut off Barrow's trigger finger. Yeah. That polygamous cult was in the same state as you. I think maybe you can become a cult leader, says Tim Jenkins. I don't think so. I'm not in that state anymore. Rich Giraffe said, oh, well, wait a minute. I'm in a new state. Maybe you're correct. I don't think I'm going to have it. Having a good time, Tom, says Rich Giraffe. Glad you're having a good time. Tim Jenkins says probably Catholics. They seem to have a lot of middle names. Well, everybody's got middle names. It's not just Catholics. Arriving at the scene, the coroner reported that nearly everyone had been collecting souvenirs such as shell casing, slivers of glass, bloody pieces of clothing. One eager man had opened his pocket knife and was reaching in the car to cut off Clyde's left ear. Hamer and Hinton got the crowd under control. Oh, I imagine Hamer got the crowd under control. Ending what was described as a circus-like atmosphere and got people away from the car, the posse towed the Ford, with the bodies still inside, to the Conger Furniture Store and Funeral Parlor in downtown Arcadia. Preliminary embalming was done by Bailey in a small preparation room in the back of the furniture store, as it was common at the time for furniture stores and undertakers to share the same space. I guess. The amount of people present in Arcadia reportedly swelled from 2,000 to 12,000 within hours as curious crowds arrived by carriage, horseback, plane, and train. Sandwiches quickly sold out, and the price of beer jumped from 15 cents per bottle to 25 cents per bottle. Oh, my God. Henry Barrow identified his son's body, then sat weeping in a rocking chair at the furniture store. H.D. Darby, an undertaker at the McClure Funeral Parlor, and Sophia Stone, a home demonstration agent, had both been kidnapped by the gang in 1933. They came back to Arcadia from nearby Ruston to identify the bodies. Parker had reportedly laughed when she discovered that Darby was an undertaker and flippantly remarked maybe he would work on her corpse one day, which ended up becoming true when he assisted Bailey in the embalming process. Yes. Terry Nee says TikTok. I don't know. Maybe he's a fan of the Vaughn brothers. Barrow and Parker wished to be buried side by side, but the Parker family would not allow it. Her mother wanted to grant her final wish to be brought home, but the mobs surrounding the Parker house made it impossible. More than 20,000 people attended Parker's funeral, and her family had difficulty reaching her gravesite. Her services were held on May 26th. Alan Campbell recalled that flowers came from everywhere, including some cards allegedly from Pretty Boy Floyd and John Dillinger. The largest floral tribute was sent by a group of Dallas City newsboys. The sudden end of Bonnie and Clyde sold 500,000 newspapers in Dallas alone. Parker was buried in the Fish Trap Cemetery before her body was moved in 1945 to the New Crown Hill Cemetery in Dallas. Thousands of people gathered outside both Dallas funeral homes hoping for a chance to view the bodies. Barrow's private funeral was held at sunset on May 25th. He was buried in Western Heights Cemetery in Dallas next to his brother Marvin. The Barrow brothers share a single granite marker with their names on it and an epitaph selected by Clyde that simply says, "Gone but not forgotten." Here's a weird fact. The American National Insurance Company of Galveston, Texas, paid the life insurance policies in full on Bonnie and Clyde. Since then, the policy of payouts has changed to exclude payouts in cases of death caused by any criminal act of the insured. The 6 men of the posse were to split the reward money 6 ways. Dallas Sheriff Schmid had promised Hinton this would total $26,000, which is about $628,000 in today's money, but most of the organizations that had pledged reward funds reneged on their pledges, and in the end, each lawman earned $200.23, about $4,800 in today's money, for their efforts and collected memorabilia. By the summer of 1934, new federal statutes made bank robbery and kidnapping federal offenses and made it much more difficult to rob and murder than it had been just weeks before. Law enforcement killed Dillinger 2 months after killing Bonnie and Clyde. Pretty Boy Floyd 3 months after killing Dillinger. And Babyface Nelson here 1 month after killing Pretty Boy Floyd. In 2018, Bonnie's niece and last known surviving relative campaigned to have Bonnie buried next to Clyde, but it just didn't happen. The car, let's see here. There was a couple of stories that are kind of controversies about the things that happened, but they've all been proven pretty much not true. Bonnie and Clyde killed 12 people. 9 of them were law enforcement officers during their 2 years of criminal activity from February of 1932 to May of 1934. The posse never received their bounty. Alcorn claimed Barrow's saxophone from the car, but later returned it to the family. Posse members took other personal items, such as Bonnie's clothing. The Parker family asked for them back, but were refused, and the items were later sold as souvenirs. The Barrow family claimed that Sheriff Jordan kept an alleged suitcase of cash, and one writer claims that the sheriff bought a barn and some land soon after the event, hinting that that accusation was true, despite the lack of evidence. So he was a $2 Dan fan. What's Undertaker? That's not a good thing to hear at your age, says Terry, even though he's older than I am. Doopa says trying to cut off the trigger finger and ear. What the hell is wrong with people? Exactly, Doopa. I cannot type on my phone to save my life. Doopa, you're doing fine. Roller Skater Texas Girl said, I had an aunt rob a bank in 1953-ish at 19 years old. She wanted to be Bonnie, I guess. I hope she got that out of her system. Sheriff Jordan attempted to keep the death car, but Ruth Warren of Topeka, Kansas, the vehicle's legal owner, remember the Barrow gang had stolen the car from her, sued him. And so he relented and allowed her to claim it in August of 1934, still covered with blood and human tissue. The engine still ran despite the damage the vehicle took during the ambush. Ms. Warren, Ruth Warren, picked up the car in Arcadia and drove it to Shreveport, still in its gruesome state, and from there she had it trucked to Topeka. The bullet-riddled Ford became a popular traveling attraction. I saw it when I was a kid. The car was displayed at fairs, amusement parks, and flea markets for 3 decades and once became a fixture at a Nevada racetrack. There was a charge of $1 to sit in it. In 1988, a casino near Las Vegas purchased the vehicle for about $250,000. It's about $500,000 today. As of 2024, the car and the shirt Barrow was wearing when killed are displayed behind a glass panel at the Primm Valley Resort in Primm, Nevada. Barrow's enthusiasm for cars was evident in a letter he wrote from Tulsa, Oklahoma, during all this killing and murdering and stuff, and he wrote the letter to none other than Henry Ford. "Well, I still got breath in my lungs. I will tell you what a dandy car you make. I have drove Fords exclusively when I could get away with one. For sustained speed and freedom from trouble, the Ford has got every other car skinned. And even if my business hasn't been strictly legal, it don't hurt anything to tell you what a fine car you got in the V8. February of 1935, Dallas and federal authorities arrested and tried 20 family members and friends for aiding and abetting Barrow and Parker. A couple people were jailed for 30 days, and there was 2 years of imprisonment for Floyd Hamilton, the brother of Raymond, to an hour in custody for one. Blanche was permanently blinded in her left eye during that shootout at Dexfield Park. She was taken into custody on the charge of assault with intent to kill. She was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison, but paroled in 1939 for good behavior. She returned to Dallas, leaving her life of a criminal past, lived with her invalid father as his caregiver. In 1940, she married Eddie Frazier. She worked as a taxi dispatcher and a beautician and completed the terms of her parole 1 year later. She lived in peace with her husband until he died of cancer in 1969. Warren Beatty approached Blanche to purchase the rights to her name for use in the 1967 film Bonnie and Clyde, and she agreed to the original script. She objected to her characterization by Estelle Parsons in the final film, describing the actress's Academy Award-winning portrayal of her as a screaming horse's ass. Despite this, she maintained a firm friendship with Warren Beatty and died of cancer at 77 on Christmas Eve, 1988, and was buried in Dallas's Grove Hill Memorial Park under the name Blanche B. Frazier. Barrow cohorts Hamilton and Palmer, who escaped Eastham, in January of 1934, were recaptured. Both were convicted of murder and executed in the electric chair at Huntsville about a year later. W.D. Jones, that I'm showing you now, had left Parker and Barrow 6 weeks after the three of them fled Dexfield Park in July of 1933. He reached Houston and got a job picking cotton, where he was soon discovered and captured. He was returned to Dallas, where he dictated a confession in which he claimed to have been kept a prisoner by Bonnie and Clyde. Some of the more lurid lies that he told concerned the gang's sex lives, and this testimony gave rise to many stories about Clyde being sexually ambiguous. W.D. Jones was convicted of the murder of Doyle Johnson and served a lenient sentence of 15 years. Jones gave an interview to Playboy magazine. Where's my Playboy symbol? Daggone it. I thought I had made a Playboy symbol in here somewhere. I guess I didn't. During the excitement that surrounded the movie Bonnie and Clyde, that Bonnie and Clyde movie made it look all sorts of glamorous, but like I told them teenage boys sitting near me at the drive-in showing, Take it from an old man who was there. It was hell. Besides, there's more lawmen nowadays with better ways of catching you. You couldn't get away anyway. The only way I come through it was because the good Lord must have been watching over me, but you can't depend on that neither, because he's got more folks to watch over now than he did then. Good thinking. Jones was killed in August of 1974 in a misunderstanding by a jealous boyfriend of a woman he was trying to help. Henry Methvin was convicted in Oklahoma of the 1934 murder of Constable Campbell at Commerce, Oklahoma. He was paroled in 1942 and killed by a train in 1948. How, you ask? Well, more bizarre stuff. He fell asleep drunk on the train tracks, although some have speculated that he was pushed by someone seeking revenge. His father, Ivy, remember him, was killed by a hit-and-run driver. Bonnie Parker's husband, remember, Roy Thornton, she never divorced him, was sentenced to 5 years in prison for burglary in 1933. He was killed by guards October 3rd, 1937, during an escape attempt from Easton Prison Farm. So he's sentenced to 5 years in prison in 1933, which means he'd been out in 1938. He was killed in October of 1937, about 6 months before he would have gotten out of prison. I told you these people, white trash. Hamer returned to acquire life as a freelance security consultant for oil companies. Many people believed he hadn't given Bonnie and Clyde a fair chance to surrender. He didn't care. He died in 1955 at the age of 71 after several years of poor health. Let's see here. Popular culture. Hollywood has treated the story of Bonnie and Clyde several times, including the Bonnie Parker story, cigar-smoking hellcat of the Roaring 30s. Yep. Also, Bonnie and Clyde, the Academy Award-winning film, which is super fake, and Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson movie called The Highwayman. And this is just me, and I know I'm pedantic. Why is Costner's name above Woody Harrelson and Woody Harrelson's name above Costner? The partnership of Bonnie and Clyde has popularized the term ride or die to describe unwavering loyalty between a duo. There's a million music examples. Brigitte Bardot did a song in 1967, Bonnie and Clyde. George Fame did one, The Ballad of Bonnie and Clyde. Mel Torme did A Day in the Life of Bonnie and Clyde. Merle Haggard did The Legend of Bonnie and Clyde. That song was covered by Tammy Wynette the same year on her album Divorce. Flatt and Scruggs did the story of Bonnie and Clyde as the title of an album in 1968. Jay-Z and Beyonce did a single called '03 Bonnie and Clyde. I'm not going to keep going. Anyways, there's some slang. The idiomatic phrase modern day Bonnie and Clyde, you hear it all the time. There's actually a song by Travis Tritt. It's a long way to Richmond. Modern day Bonnie and Clyde. That's a good song, actually. And the music video has Billy Bob Thornton in it, and it's very good, too. Bonnie and Clyde now just means a couple that'll do anything for them, that are kind of crazy. Bonnie and Clyde syndrome is a pop culture phrase for hybristophilia, a sexual interest in and attraction to those who commit crimes. So, there you go. Today, Bonnie's niece, Rhea Lean Linder, and Clyde's nephew, Buddy Barrow, occasionally appear in the media to comment on Bonnie and Clyde and their films. They also discuss the graves. And that's a lot longer than I intended to spend telling you about Bonnie and Clyde. But that's all I got to say. Tomorrow, I think we do the Flintstones. Meet the Flintstones. They're the modern Stone Age family. And we'll cover the Flintstones on Wednesday. I don't have the thing up for it yet, but it's going to be Charles Bronson. And then on Thursday, I'm doing a show on Olestra. So get ready for that. What do we got here in the... Dupa says, roller skater text girl, why? How much time did your aunt serve? She served no time due to pregnancy and her age, so they took her husband, who was also there, and he served many years in prison. I'll have to check the records for accuracy. Was much older than her. They always reminded me of Bonnie and Clyde. Terry Nee says, after heart muscle, I guess is what he's saying. Roller skater Texas girl says, a horse's ass. He was not a good guy, I guess. Yeah, that's a badly designed poster. Isn't it? Isn't it, though? Thank you. I'm glad somebody else noticed that. I'm taking it off the screen. I'm so mad at it. Guido Samurai says, my name is Guido. I'm an I can't pronounce that. Flintstones, I'll grab my Winstons. Hey, Rich Giraffe. Guess what? Okay, Rich Giraffe, if you want to go down that road, hold on a second for me, buddy. Hold on just a second. I don't like to pause the show really for this kind of thing, but I'm a gonna. Oh, come on, man. Don't do me like this. Come on. Load, you some buck. This would have been so great if it just would have popped open, but it never does. It never does. It never does the thing I want it to do when I want it to do a thing. Okay, open that up. Publicity. Hold on, I'll find it. All free. Title card on holiday. Hold on, I'm getting it. Here we go. There we go. How about that? Okay. All right. I'll party with you. Look at that. Look what I did for you, Rich. Look at that. There's the damn people smoking the damn thing. There. Now I'll get rid of that. Man, we had 175 drop frames. That's a lot. Let me get rid of that there. I don't need that no more. Okay, what else do we got? Guido Samurai says, I need help. I don't know why. It seemed fine to me. My dad taught me about that. Yes. Cigarettes. Did the Flintstones advertise cigarettes? Oh, yes, they did. Tom's speaking in tongues. I am kind of. Richard Durant says, possibly, Tim. I'll let Tom cover that. Yes, they did. They advertised Winston's. And then that only lasted for a season or two. And then they went to a much more kid-friendly, I forget what product it is. I'll tell you tomorrow. I read about it today. I can't remember offhand. But that's all I got, kids, for Bonnie and Clyde. I think I just told you what we're going to do for the next few shows. Olestra on Thursday. So you might want to eat some Imodium before that show, I guess, would be what you might need. Imodium. Longer show than I thought it was going to be. So anyway, that's all I got. Looking at that old clock on the coffee table, says I got an Amscray. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, for God's sakes. And with all that being said, the only thing left to say is, till next time. Oh, Roller Skater Text Girl says, a great show, Tom. Thank you. From cigarettes to Flintstones vitamins. Yeah, it's a disparity. The only thing left to, hey, Roller Skater Texas Girl, great to see you. Great to see everybody. I'd like to thank, hold on, do we get any? Dupa member for 25 months, over a year. Oh my goodness gracious. Over a year. Fan funding. Let's see what we got there. Do we get any? Oh, my good friend, the chef, who's already said goodnight with $10. Thank you so much. And the chef also a member for 19 months. Can you dig it? I knew that you could. And I finally got the buffering thing taken care of. Hey, Roller Skater Texas Girl, always great to see you. Thanks, Rich Giraffe, for being here. Tim Jenkinson, of course. Go Arsenal. Who else do we have in here? Terry Nee. Thanks to Terry for showing up. I know it's hard for him to stay up this late after they give him Metamucil at the home this time of night. Doopa-doopa-doo. Oh, always love it when Triple D is in here. And who else do we got? The chef, of course, the chef. Oh, the guy from Nice Podcast, Stupid Live, stopped in. That's great. Maybe somebody boosted him up onto a chair so he could touch the keys on the computer. Need you, little tiny guy. One of these guys that wears that uniform, you know, ball cap, goatee, sunglasses. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to take you out with another banger from our good friend Leon Kennedy, the musical director. Until next time, we'll see you next time.
Tom Gulley's here. G-U-L-L-E-Y. He's here to stay. G-U-L-L-E-Y. The Golly guarantee. That's what the people need. We're all here to see Tom Gulley. G-U-L-L-E-Y. G-U-L-L-E-Y. Tom Gulley's here. G-U-L-L-E-Y. He's here to stay. The lights are low, so start the show. Tom's here to go, so let it roll.